If you're as obsessed with TikTok as me, you've probably seen the trend of painting candles in some form. Some people use normal acrylic paint, but painting the candles with wax has become a big trend. So I wanted to give it a try and give you an honest review of how easy and fun this DIY craft is. All the creators I've seen do this trend with wax buy lots of smaller coloured candles for their paint. When I went to the shops, I struggled to find a mix of colours, and all the candles were scented, and I thought having all the different candles burning at the same time with all their different scents might have been a little bit too much for my nose. So I thought instead I would use wax crayons. I think it also turned out much cheaper. I bought a few sizes of pillar candles and a box of crayons. I used any and all paintbrushes I could find, and my idea for melting the crayon wax was to use a heat gun, but a hairdryer would work too. Although bear with me on this idea, as I find a better solution later in the video. I used a metal muffin tray and a piece of aluminium foil pressed into the tray to make a little foil cup to hold the wax. I broke off a small piece of the crayon in the colour I wanted, then popped it into the foil cup in the tray. Using the heat gun, melt the wax. For my first attempt, I wanted to go with a simple design, so I painted on little hearts. Right from the start, I could see this was going to be a lot tougher than I thought, especially to get any sort of more complex or even accurate shape. The wax dries almost instantly. From loading the brush to touching the candle, you have to move fast. And you can only do one stroke of the brush. It's nothing like actually painting, where you can pull the paint further down in one brush dip. Getting it neat was also a challenge. I found with this setup, I had to keep reheating the wax with the heat gun. The wax went on the easiest when it was in its most liquidy form, so keeping it melted didn't really work with this. This is as good as I could get. Not the neatest thing I've ever done. I persevered as much as I could like this, and could eventually get a better technique of only dipping when the wax was as hot as it could be, but it was taking quite a long time. I knew I had to improve this setup. My best idea was to use a wax burner. I could still use the foil cup, so cleanup and swapping colours was extremely easy. I used the heat gun occasionally to get the wax as melted as it possibly could be, but the wax burner worked really well to keep the heat. Another good thing about using wax, if you mess up, you can gently scrape off the wax and paint over as if no mistakes were made. For the first attempt, I think it turned out pretty cute. Filled with false confidence from the heart, I went with a slightly more complex design. Still basic shapes, but with a little bit more detail. You can see, even just trying to paint a circle is quite difficult to get neat. One more thing I liked about using the crayon wax is that you can make your own custom colour. I made a lighter colour for the highlights using the yellow, orange or green with the white crayon wax. Once I get my hand out of the way, you can see the highlights I added, just a small extra detail. Once I was finished with this lemons, oranges and limes candle, I moved my setup in front of the TV and finished off the last 3 candles. I wanted to try another slightly complex design, and even made my own custom colour for the bee's wings. But again, You can see for the small details like adding the stripes on the beads. It was hit and miss. But we did it. 5 hand painted with wax candles. From far away, I think they look pretty good. If you have the patience and skills, you could probably achieve a pretty good design. It would never be as neat and delicate as using something like acrylic paint, but the whole point of using wax is these candles are all safe to use and burn. There's no risk of burning toxic paint fumes. Getting in close, you can see the texture of the wax. I think you could create something pretty cool, almost 3D, by layering the wax up in your design. Overall, to rate this craft, I'll give it, for fun, 4 pickles out of 5. It was a little frustrating trying to get the exact shapes I wanted, but if you just accept that they're all going to be a bit organic, then it's great. Easiness, 3.5 pickles. Cost, 5 out of 5 pickles. For some people, you might have all of these supplies already. All I had to buy myself were the crayons and the candles. I really loved doing this video, so if you see any crafty trends you want me to try out and review, let me know in the comments. Or just tag me in the TikTok. My TikTok is NetliamandPickle. Let me know if you'll be trying out this candle painting craft too.